Welcome to another episode of the Glory Boys podcast.
Yep.
I'm one of your hosts, Austin.
I'm Darren.
I'm Trev.
I'm Ray.
And this podcast is designed to help creatives build wealth. Over the past 5 years, we built a multi-six-figure video production company, and that's what this podcast is all about, trying to give away value and things that we've learned along in the journey.
Yes, doesn't matter what part of the journey you're in. If you love being creative in any sphere, this podcast is for you, and it will inspire you.
If you want to check out what we're up to on social, follow us on Instagram at The Glory Boys Pod, on TikTok at The Glory Boys Podcast. You can hear the audio version of this podcast on all your favorite podcast streaming platforms. Hit the subscribe button to this channel, like this video.
Yeah, and if you want to see our main account, our business account, just go to Glory Visuals on Instagram or go to YouTube, Glory Visuals, and see all the behind the scenes and all the other stuff that we shoot, like music videos, wedding, you name it, we got it on there.
Today we have an incredible interview with Ben Mohorn.
Yeah.
We learn a little bit about his story of going from a homeschooled high school student to a freelancer to now starting a video production company of his own. It's really awesome, really inspiring. So let's kick it to Ben.
Heck yeah.
We have a very, very special guest on the podcast today. Ben is the founder of Bighorn Productions, a video production house based out of Nebraska that specializes in outdoor content. Before specializing, he filmed at a high level across a variety of industries. He's from the great town of York, Nebraska.
Yeah.
He loves Jesus. Listeners everywhere.
Woo!
It's Ben Mohorn.
It's a pleasure to be here.
The man, the myth, the legend, in the flesh.
I love this dude. You guys are going to love this dude. I'm so excited to have you here, man.
Yeah, I'm stoked to be here. I've followed you guys for the last 3 or 4 years. My mom actually introduced me to your guys' page.
Let's go.
And then just kept following you guys from there. And it's been super cool to see you guys grow, kind of build over the years. And so, yeah, I'm stoked to... I gotta keep talking into the mic. My bad. I'm gonna try to talk.
You can also pick it up. You can literally hold it. That's why we switched to these. Yeah. Darren just holds it the whole time because
He does. He'll
makes
lean
it
back
feel
and like,
yeah, dude, just
powerful.
chill. I like to chill back here sometimes.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
cool, man.
But yeah, I'm stoked to be here and chatting with you guys and finally actually get to meet you guys in person. So
Yeah, likewise.
Heck yeah, dude.
Shouts out mom. What's your mom's name?
Susan.
Susan. Shouts out Susan.
That's
yeah.
epic,
Yeah.
dude.
How did she find us, or I guess why did she send us over to you?
So of course, I have a very strong background in faith and Jesus and everything. And so like that comes from my parents, of course.
Sure.
And so I started in this industry about 5 years ago, going on 6 now. And when I was at my previous job, she was kind of like just scouring the internet for like different creators that are kind of in the like that love Jesus and also love to create content.
Yeah,
and so
sick.
you guys
That's
kind of
dope.
popped
Love
up,
it.
and
That's so cool.
yeah. So I started following you guys sort of from that.
Heck
That's sick. So tell us, because you kind of had an unconventional maybe entrance into like our industry and being a creative. So tell us and the listeners about that a little bit and kind of what was your path to where you are now?
Before you do though, could you just introduce yourself and just like really just share like how long, or I guess you just said 5 to 6 years.
Yeah. I can
But
do it.
more so just like
How'd you get into it?
how'd you get into it? And just a little backstory about you. Cause I really don't know. Like,
Yeah. Well, yeah. So my name is Ben Mohorn. Born and raised in York, Nebraska, and that's just kind of been where I've called home for my whole life. And so I have a very non-traditional background into this industry. I probably one of the more non-traditional stories of like my life that you could probably say. So I was actually homeschooled up until my sophomore year of high school, and then really I didn't go to high school. So then my sophomore year of high school, I wanted to participate in sports. I was really passionate in football.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so to be eligible to play, you had to do 20 academic hours a week at the high school. So I went up to high school in the mornings, and then I would go back home, and I was essentially homeschooled still, but I did some online courses and everything. And then it really gave me a lot of time to just kind of pursue what I was actually interested in, what I was truly passionate in, and then also be able to play sports. And so it was a really cool kind of like balance on dynamic because I got the social aspect from being at the high school.
Sure.
Like, of course, you get classes and you learn and yada, 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 so on. But then I got the like freedom to truly pursue what I was interested in. So it was really cool. And then I guess like I'm sure you guys probably did the same thing of like making home videos when you're kind of younger and everything.
Yeah.
I did that a little bit. But then like when middle school hit, we kind of like, it just kind of fizzled out. I was like,
Okay.
you can't really, like, I'm not going to go to Hollywood to make movies. That's just like, that wasn't my dream and aspiration.
Sure.
Yeah.
But then my junior year in high school, so I guess I originally started in photography. So I used to have like an old iPhone that I'd take photos with, and I would just take it on everything and try to take photos.
Yeah.
Super cheesy. Like they're not good. But then I like upgraded to a GoPro Hero White or a GoPro 4 Hero White.
Sick.
Okay.
And then I got like
Big upgrade.
it was really cool, like $200. And I was like, this is life changing.
Yeah.
Then I got the GoPro Hero 4 Black, and I was like, this is another level. And then, so like I would carry GoPro around with me everywhere. Never made anything with the video. I just would do like time lapses of the stars. And,
Oh, interesting.
Like long exposures and everything.
Yeah.
And then we went paintballing in Lincoln, like halfway through my junior year of high school, just with a bunch of high school buddies. There's this app called Quick that would pre-edit videos for you. So you would shoot the video and then it would edit it for you.
Sick.
And so I did that, and I was like, that's kind of cool. So then my soccer coach, so soccer season in Nebraska for high school is in the spring. So my soccer coach saw it. He's like, hey, would you be interested in doing a video like this for a soccer team? I was like, I've never tried it before. Like, I'm more than down to try it. And like I said, I had a background in photography.
Okay.
And being homeschooled, we had the like student Adobe suite. So like I had like Premiere, After Effects, Audition. I really only just used Lightroom for editing photos.
Yeah.
But then like, so he said that, and by that time I had upgraded to like I think it was a 5D Mark II at that point in my life. And I was like, all right, I have a decent camera. I'll try to shoot it on this. And I was like, I don't want to do it in the Quick app. So in the period of like 4 weeks, I taught myself Premiere. Shout out to Peter McKinnon from that.
Dang.
And well, so like I started following Peter McKinnon when he had like 30,000 followers.
Yeah.
Like less than that, maybe.
Yeah.
Because I originally saw his like how to color grade video.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait, this makes sense. Like I can do this.
Right.
And so taught myself Premiere in like the matter of 4 weeks, posted the video, and the first night that the video like went live, it got like 1,500 views.
Let's go.
And like I was like shaking at my house, I'm like adrenaline high and everything.
I love it.
Yeah.
It was super cool. And so I was like, I could see myself doing this, but I have no idea where that, like what industry this takes me and what that looks like. So that posted at the end of my junior year. First video I'd ever made, like solely myself, edited and everything. And like, it's still, I'm super proud of that video.
Yeah.
And so then fast forward, my soccer coach knew my then to be boss, Taylor Siebert, who owns Strive in Henderson, Nebraska.
Yep.
And so he like, just crazy how the Lord worked, because that video posted and it went on Facebook, and Taylor then like commented on it for my boss or for my soccer coach. He's like, who is this kid? Like, I need to meet him. Well, then I didn't meet Taylor for like 7 months after that. We went on to win a state championship in football. Like, that was my passion. And like, I smuggled a GoPro on the field for the like football game, like just the warm-ups, not the actual game.
I was like, dang, that's savage.
Yeah, so like I was creating videos, but like I was more focused on football. Football ended, and I was like, I just don't think that's the like route I want to go down, because that was always like my dream, is like go play college ball. And then that just kind of fell through, and I was like, it's just not where the Lord's wanting me to go.
Yeah.
So then I met Taylor, and then in the matter of like 6 months, I went from meeting Taylor to shooting his like first vlog, and then or one of his first vlogs, and then their creative director was leaving. He was going to the military or to the Navy, and so they're like, well, we have this position opening up, and I was like, I went to like a few different universities, schools to like see like where's the Lord wanting me to go here. It's like, it's just not my calling. I do not like I don't do well in classrooms. I was like, it's just, I don't really care for that.
Sure.
Like, throw me into a deep end, coach. Like, let me go learn on my own.
Right.
And so so then I got an internship the day after I graduated high school with Strive. And that then turned into like a few months later, they were like, all right, well, we have this position open. Do you want to come on full time as our creative director? And like, granted, I was 18 when I started. And then it was like, all of a sudden I'm like, I never like really seriously, I started doing video 6 months prior. And I was like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, I know how to play football, but I don't know how to shoot it.
Yeah.
So like I shot my first football game in the fall. Then it was like all of a sudden they're like, well, can you shoot all these other events? And all of a sudden I'm shooting like 10 different sporting events yearly. I'm doing like all the in-house video for like state championships and everything, hype videos. We're doing like documentaries, or like not documentaries, but like short stories and films and stuff. And like I got thrown in deep, and it was like I went from like having a 5D Mark II to like buying a Canon 80D to then like I bought like a 5D4. There's a point I had like 4 or 5 cameras just sitting in my room, and I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Right.
This is nuts. Like I was like, I started out with a GoPro.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So then, fast forward, I worked for them for a few years and like loved that job. And then it was just like, the Lord is just pulling me somewhere else. I was like, it's just time to change. I don't know where I'm going to go. So then 2021 came around, and I was like, all right, it's time to change directions a little bit, and let's try, like, let's do the freelance thing. I had enough work that I was like, I can pay the next month of bills, and I can keep going. And like the Lord, like I took 2 weeks of vacation, and then I was on my way back from the Pacific Northwest in my second week of vacation, and I got a call, and they're like, hey, we need this video like pronto, and would you be able to do it?
Wow.
And it was like a few grand, and I was like, wow, like just the Lord working in a way I was
Praise God, that's amazing.
Yeah, it was incredible. So super cool to like see, like I left this job that was like monthly paycheck, or like you're constantly getting paid salary.
Sure.
And all of a sudden you're like, well, I don't know where the next paycheck's coming from.
Yeah.
And so I've done like, I guess, freelance for the last 2 years, and now really transitioning to starting another production company of Bighorn Productions, and moving away from the freelance style of like pickup gigs here and there, just seeing where the next paycheck's going to come from, to now trying to be a lot more business oriented of let's be a lot more proactive with reaching out to customers or clients, and starting more of a production company, creating content for brands and companies, agencies, primarily focused in the outdoors and hunting, fishing, outdoors rec industry.
Right.
So
So I wanted to touch on a couple of things you said. Back up to when they offered you that creative director position at Strive. I think
What's
a lot
Strive, by the way? Sorry, I don't know what that is.
Yes.
So
Go ahead,
Strive
Ben.
is so they primarily focus in the high school area. And they're essentially a media company, but they do like high school live streaming for different sporting events.
Got it.
So we were very like, so like, I think at the point that I was there, they had like 130 schools at the highest point that I was there, just like across Nebraska. And they were starting to dabble in Iowa and like some other states.
Yeah.
And so then I was kind of like the creative side of it, of like, we're already at these state events. Why not do like the in-house stuff for NSAA? And so I did a lot more of the like video production side of it, more so than the live streaming side of it.
Yeah.
So
So I was just gonna ask, because I think a lot of people like presented with that opportunity could have just folded under the pressure of like, you didn't necessarily feel qualified for that position. So what was it that allowed you to even step into that, being like, I shot on a GoPro not that long ago, so but I'm still gonna step into this and crush it.
Yeah. Well, so I think for me, like, it goes back to that mentality of like, throw me into a deep end, coach. Like, let me learn how to swim. Like, and so like, it definitely has been like a challenging career. Like, I've been very blessed in what I've been able to do, being that I'm only 23 years old right now. And it's like, I don't think many 23-year-olds could say like they're almost like totally debt free and like have no student loans. And I've been able to start, and now I'm affiliated with 2 different companies as a part owner.
Right. That's amazing.
It's been an incredible career. And I'm like, I'm only 23. Like, all right, let's keep going here.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things of like, let me learn and let me fail.
Sure.
And if I'm not going to fail, then I'm not learning, I'm not growing.
Okay. Yeah.
And so it's kind of that side of like, I was more willing to fail and get back up and learn from it and get better from it. And not just live by the mentality of like, well, if I fail, I'm done. Like, this is over with. Like, I've been very, like, God's been very good to me in the sense of like, I've failed a lot. Like, there's been a lot of stuff that I have, like, we just recently did a shoot here. It was like a few months back, and we were shooting for this camo company, and we forgot to, it's like in tree stands, you're supposed to wear a safety harness for it.
Mm-hmm.
And we just accidentally slipped, like we missed, I'm going to move this. So we forgot to put the safety harness on the guy. And the guy called me. He's like, hey, we can't use any of these photos because there's no safety harness on them.
Wow.
And I was like, there's 2 people in that situation. Like, you could just like start getting pissed off at him of like, hey, like, we tried our best. This is what we do.
Did all
like,
this work.
yeah. But there's also the person of like, hey, we're going to correct this error. And that's more the route that we went of like, hey, we made this blunder. It was on us.
Right.
We will bite the dollar and we will reshoot the content for you guys.
Yeah.
And it's like, you can sink underneath that pressure if you want to, but it's like, no, like, take it as a learning lesson, grow from it, and build like a kind of like your mentality that you aren't just like gonna just like get pissed off when somebody corrects you for something.
Yeah.
I love that. That's great.
Yeah, I feel like that's not something that you just like accidentally learn or even, I mean, honestly, it's even hard to teach, I feel. So there has to be some kind of background. Like, your parents must be ballers. Like, just like the way that they brought you up to be like an 18-year-old kid and be like, yeah, dude, fail forward. Like John Maxwell, like leadership value.
Yeah,
like,
that's what
as
I'm
an
saying.
18-year-old
Like,
doesn't
I would
make
not have
any
done that.
freaking sense. So I want you to dive a little bit into just like, like that tenacity and or audacity even, and just like passion to throw me in the deep end, coach, like isn't something a typical 18-year-old has.
Right.
So how, I guess, where's that come from?
Yeah. So like,
Other than the Lord.
I gotta shout out my parents because they are incredible parents. Like, I have been beyond blessed to have them and my siblings and everything. But yeah, it has been one of those things of like, I have seen my dad from like when I can remember, like 2-3 years old, of him always working super hard.
Yeah.
And always just like we just built a house here 9 years ago, and a lot of kids in Nebraska will detassel over the summer and everything.
Yeah.
He was like, hey, come help me like build the house and like help me like dig out the basement. So like, we were spending like 100-degree summer days digging out this basement, putting in heated flooring in the basement.
Sure.
And that was like my job for the summer.
Yeah.
And so like, my dad's always been like, I'm going to just do it myself. I'm going to do it well. I'm going to do it right.
Yeah.
And it's like, that, yeah. So that mentality of like, I'm not going to sit here and wait for somebody else to do action on what I can do. And like, let's teach ourselves how to do it and
That rocks.
be the best.
That's like such a good, like, Midwest hardy, like,
It's
what's
so
your dad's
good.
name? What's your dad's name?
Done.
Don.
Oh, Don.
He's the Don. Call him the Don, dude.
Dude,
So
good.
yeah, it's been one of those things of like seeing him work super hard, teach himself how to do these different things in
Great.
life.
Yeah.
It's like, don't just wait for somebody to bring action to you because you're never going to go anywhere at that point.
Yeah.
You have to be proactive and like get off your butt and go work hard to make stuff happen.
Amen.
So
Yeah, it can be discouraging for people that don't have dads that are that awesome.
Yeah,
me
Sure.
being one of those. So I could either fall to the spectrum of like, I could have just fallen to what was my norm, like my situation growing up or whatever. But I looked at it as like, man, there's an opportunity for me to break this
Yeah.
Yeah.
continuing on. So my children will see me as a hard worker that started something and that blessed them with finances and continued to push our generations upward and forward and into abundance, because that's what God wants for his kids. And so I just, it's super inspirational for whoever's listening that maybe doesn't have the dad that was, making you sweat in 100-degree weather, but there still is hope.
For sure.
There's a ownership that you just take that, no, this is my life. I have so much time on this earth and I want to leave a legacy. I'm going to work hard for what I get.
Yep.
And so either way, you can, still win.
Yeah. Well, I think like ultimately you can either blame the situation in the scenario that you're in and have like, well, I didn't have this work out correctly for me, or I didn't have this go right in my life.
Yeah.
But you can break that kind of generational high or whatever it is.
100%.
And like, hey, I'm going to make something out of myself. Yeah. And like you guys are killing it. And like, that's awesome.
I want to touch on your transition into kind of this building this production house and specifically outdoors content. I won't say that's all you do.
Yeah.
Because I think there are a few other things that you have on your plate, but I think there's definitely forming the specialization, looking at all your content and your website, which we'll give the people later. It's incredible. Like it's so, every time I look at it, it just like brings me into that moment. I feel like I'm out in nature with you guys. I feel like I'm a part of this experience, which is just like insane. And I'm like not typically an outdoors guy, but I'm down for whatever, And so I appreciate content that allows me to experience that type of thing when I normally wouldn't. So what was first of all, what was the draw to it? And then what was the transition like into kind of that specialization?
Well, so I'm a guy that really loves to reflect. I like to look back at what my past has done to help build where I'm at now and kind of where the Lord has led me from when I was a kid to where I'm at now.
Yeah.
So like when I was a kid, I remember my mom, like, of course, don't get me wrong, school is incredibly important. Kids, stay in school, like study.
School.
Don't do drugs.
Yes.
Don't do drugs.
And like, praise the Lord. But I also remember my mom giving me a lot of time to like just sit there and build Legos and listen to audiobooks.
It's amazing.
And I think that's where like truly I got like my gift for storytelling and being creative is like from that, because it was just like I was young. I was like 5 to like 8 years old.
Yeah.
And it's like I'm sitting there listening to some of the best stories in the world, listening to how they're crafting these stories. And I'm not conscious of that like at that time.
Sure.
But then also like doing Legos in your hands, creating different stuff.
Yeah.
I think it built that mentality for it. And then it was also the stuff of like my grandparents were actually from Iowa as well.
Okay.
And so we would go over to their farm and I would be like out on the farm, like doing kind of, or just like experiencing how they were harvesting and the process of farming.
Yeah.
And a lot of farmers also kind of carry over into the hunting industry, the outdoors industry as well.
Sure.
So it was one of those situations of like, I was kind of like this background for me was getting built at such a young age that I was not aware of. And so then when so I've always been passionate in sports. Like I said, like we won a state championship in like football and everything for high school. But then it was like, I enjoy sports and I think it taught me the mentality of like having quick reactions. Like you only get one shot at getting this moment. If you fail, like nobody's ever going to care about that shot. But if you win, like you can have great success from it.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so I think it taught me like that instant reaction of like, I have to always be on. And so everything that I've done in my life, me knowing it or not, has built to where I'm at now.
Okay. Yeah.
And so, so then kind of carrying over to where it transitions to the hunting industry is like I spent then my teen years out in the forest and everything.
Sure.
So then transitioning to the outdoors industry, one of the ladies I worked with at Strive, her husband and his brother owned this like hunting brand called Midwest Outdoor Chasers. Shout out to Noah and Luke.
Let's go, Noah and Luke.
But they're like, hey, would love to have you come out just sometime, just try it out, like see what you think of the outdoors industry, or like just come take some photos. We're not expecting anything from you.
Sure.
And it was like 4 or 5 degrees. It's a blizzard. It's like howling winds. We didn't see a single bird.
Jeez.
And it was brutal.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm hooked. Like, that was incredible. Like, it was just one of the coolest experiences. Like, some of those clips that I shot that day are still some of my favorites that I have.
Yeah.
Sure.
Are some of those shots in your show reel?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So, like, the one of the guy building a decoy and the snow is whipping past him. That's one of those shots.
I love how dark it was too, and like you used like headlights of the trucks or like the headlamps and stuff like that to like implement like light into the film and make it. But it was still so epic. You felt like you were there.
If you're watching on YouTube, maybe we can show you these as we talk about them.
Yeah. It's like, so then like that was 2 years ago. And so then like they were like, hey, like that was all like, they're like, this kid's never coming back. Like, we're never hearing from him again. I texted him next week. I was like, hey, when are we going back out again? And then it's like 2 years later, and it's like we're still working together, and now I'm actually a partner in that brand.
Heck yeah.
Wow.
And then it's like now we're starting to develop Bighorn Productions. It's like, so like it's been a full process of like, it wasn't overnight that we just created this thing of like, I know exactly this is the industry that I want to be in.
Yeah.
But then like, I've always been a lot more creatively turned in my like industry or like with my mind and everything. And so then since leaving my previous job, it was like, hey, I have to go more to the business side of it. I have to be a lot more business oriented, a lot more business minded.
Yeah.
And so like, it's been a big transition for me in the last few years of like, I like used to be a big gear nerd, and now like, I'm a lot more of like, I love gear, but I'm like, I don't have the time to invest in it as much as I could.
Sure.
So like I can still nerd out for hours. with it. So anytime you want to talk
Austin's
gear,
your
I'm
guy.
down with you.
Austin's your guy.
But yeah, it's one of those things of like, so like I got a business mentor here about a year and a half ago, and like he's a great guy, like one of my best friends now, or like one of like a huge mentor to me. And so then it's been like a lot more business minded now of like, how do you make a successful business and not just like, we're just like living from project to project. It's a lot more forward thinking of like, hey, we're going to try to make this successful. We're going to make this so that you're making money from it, and not just like that mindset of like,
or just making cool stuff. Figuring it out.
So it has been a very interesting kind of transition from sports to the outdoors industry. And for me, like I've never been like a huge hunter or anything, but like it just wasn't something that like I chased a lot when I was younger. But like my dad hunted, like he hunted, and then like now I've gotten into a lot more. And like I think there's a bad stigma with like the outdoors industry a little bit of like, you're just there to like shoot the biggest animal possible. Like you just want these trophy kills and everything.
Right.
And I like with what we're doing with Midwest Outdoor Chasers and Bighorn, we're trying to break that stigma of like, you know, we are passionate in the outdoors because it's beautiful and like because we care about it and because we want to like preserve the nature around us. And I think that stigma of like, you're chasing this big monster animal out in nature is the wrong one. And we don't want that to be our light that we're focusing on.
Yeah, it's great.
We want it to be more of this sight of like, hey, God created this nature. We want to preserve it. We want to like have it live on, and experiencing these like incredible creatures out in nature.
Sure.
It's one of the coolest experiences ever.
Right.
Like I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it. It's like some of these most extreme conditions that we film in, that we're in, like are my best memories and some of my coolest shots.
Yeah.
Right.
So
that leads into this great next question, because I know you've told me a couple like really funny stories about this, but some of the situations you do shit. Oh, wow. I'm so sorry. Some of the situations you do shoot in get sketchy.
Yeah.
Right. And so do you have like one or two of those you can share with us where it was like you're carrying expensive equipment and you're trying to balance on this canoe or whatever?
I'm going to try to keep it pretty mild because insurance does not like me, and I don't want to stress my parents out too much.
That's fair.
But yeah, there have been a lot of situations. There have been some situations that have been that more high stress.
Yeah.
Like, and ultimately I think that goes back to like my sports like my time in sports is like I can handle that stress at a high level.
Sure.
And so, or at least I like to think I can. But yeah, like last summer, I've never been on the Missouri River at night, I've never been on the Missouri River and then let alone at night.
Yeah, it's gnarly.
It's insane.
Yep. I've catfished at night many times in the Missouri.
It's crazy.
It's insane.
River.
Yes, it's nuts.
People die all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my word, dude.
Yeah, it's so like last year we hit the river hard. Like, we were out on it 6, 7, maybe 8 times last summer. Like that I was on it, and it was just a different experience trying to traverse the river at night.
Oh my gosh.
We did a shoot. There's a catfish tournament back in October. It's like the last thing you're going to be out on for the rest of that year because it's getting too cold. It's going to ice up.
Yeah.
And it was freezing cold. It was like 30 degrees. We're out there. Luke is in boating shoes. And I'm like, he's the guy that gets the coldest fastest. And I was like, why are you out here? We were out there till like 3 a.m.
Yeah.
And then like we're going back and this fog starts to blow in, and it just like, you don't realize how dense fog can get till you're in the middle of it. And then you're trying to watch for jetties coming up in front of you. It is terrifying because we're like looking and all of a sudden you're like rocks ahead and like 10 feet ahead of you appears this jetty and you're like, whoa, all right, we gotta go. Like go left. And it's like, so that's like one of those crazy situations that you're like, but the shots that I got were incredible. I love
the fog moving in.
Yes.
It's so beautiful.
It's so cool. And then like a full moon for it, those are the best conditions.
Yeah, it's great.
So like, and then like some of these different conditions that we've been in is like pouring rain. Like I haven't really got to experience out west yet for like mountains or hiking or anything of that extent.
Sure.
But it has been like a very interesting experience, just like getting pushed into these extreme conditions. And you're like, how do you make something look good in this?
Yeah.
Right.
And it's like, it's almost like, I don't like the sunny days like they're like, oh, it's so beautiful out and like perfect weather.
Oh,
it's like,
interesting.
I want the days as like lightning, thundering, like full on blizzard. Like one of my dream shots is a tornado.
That'd be sick.
Wow.
And so like, it's just like, I want like the most extreme shots I can possibly get. Now is that the smartest? Maybe not. But like,
I mean, it's like
Do it for the
National
shot, though.
Geographic.
Yeah,
It's like,
exactly.
they got to get those shots. We watch documentaries on hurricanes and
Yeah.
tornadoes. Someone filmed
Someone
that.
has to film
right.
it. Yeah.
But that's sick.
How much of your outdoor experience are you getting to actually participate in the hunting or fishing or what have you versus you're just the guy with the camera all the time?
So it's a pretty cool dynamic. So with the outdoors and hunting industry, like I don't participate a whole ton just because we're trying to build the business right now.
Yeah.
But it is one of those things of like some of these hunts that we do is like we do a lot of waterfowl hunting, or we do like we'll do pheasant hunting, or I'm trying to think of some, like we did squirrel hunting here last fall. And some of those situations, it's like you can actually participate quite a bit. Like we went out to the Sandhills out in western Nebraska, and like all the guys limited out by 8 o'clock, and we were like, all right, well, like I have my tag. Like, let's limit out. So it was like 30 minutes later and I was done, and I was like, that was fun.
Nice.
That was a really cool experience.
Yeah.
So like I still
That's
get
neat.
to participate in the outdoors industry and like in all the hunting and outdoor stuff.
Right.
Like we go up to Minnesota 2 or 3 times a year right now, like fishing, and that is some of the most relaxful and also the best filming that I've ever done.
Yeah.
Like insurance company, I'm sorry, but like hanging the camera out over the side of the boat, like getting shots of it, like full bore. It's super cool.
So
it's
sick.
like
Super cool.
and like I do get to participate in it and be active, like being able to experience nature as purest.
Right. And it's something I think too for people like us, like part of that experience, part of that experience is like filming it. Like people will ask me all the time or tell me, well, I want you to like be a part of it and not just like hold the camera.
Yeah.
But it's like, in some cases, that's nice. That's nice to have it acknowledged in that way. But honestly, like for us, there's real fulfillment and real joy in integrating our craft into that experience. And so like you are, I asked that just because I was curious how much like you get to do hunting and stuff, but like being there and filming it, even though you're working, you're building this company, like that is part of the experience for people like us. And we love to do that. So it was fun to explain that to people.
Something on that is like, I think it kind of goes back to what I was talking on earlier of like, we're not just there to get the biggest animal or like just to like, we're destroyed if we don't get this massive deer or like our limit of ducks. It's one of the cool things of like, we were actually just up in Minnesota here back in February, I think.
Where'd you go?
It's up near like it's near St. Cloud.
Okay.
And so we went ice fishing. And we go to this place every summer, every fall, great success. Like you always limit out. Well, we got sent this like super expensive piece of equipment that was really nice. And you would see the fish swim up to the lure and then you would see them look at the lure and then swim right back off.
Dang.
And we left that trip with like a 3-inch minnow as like like one of the only fish that we caught.
Wow.
And it was like, we were up there for like 36 hours on the ice.
Right.
And like most people would probably be destroyed about that.
Yeah.
But like we left and we were like, that was one of the best trips we've ever had.
Yeah.
Like, we had so many memories, so many laughs.
Yeah.
Like, we were supposed to see the Northern Lights. That flopped. It was it was just like, there were so many things that could have went wrong that they did not go according to plan.
Yeah.
But it's like, we didn't leave with that mentality of like, man, we suck. Like, we're never fishing again.
Right.
It was like, that was one of the coolest experiences.
Yeah.
Best
so
memories.
sick.
Did you mount the 3-inch minnow?
That's a great
did not.
question.
That would have been hilarious. It's like a cute little plaque and like.
I'll have to show you guys a photo of it. It's pretty funny. Ryan, that caught the minnow, is like holding it and just like, hold it as far out as you can. Like as big as possible.
That's so good.
So like a lot of the things that you do, it's kind of unpredictable.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the shoots that you go on, a lot of the hunting stuff, like you can't predict the day.
Oh, absolutely.
So what happens? Do you eat a lot of the cost a lot of the times, or do you go in with the plan of like, well, I got to get this at least, or this at least, or how do you go about the unpredictability?
There's always, in the hunting and outdoors thing, there's always that risk of like, there's always the possibility that we could absolutely get nothing. And so we always have to like say that of like, hey, we're not like 100% sure. You're never like 100% sure on anything.
Right.
But it has been one of those things of like, we're still there capturing it. We're still going through the motions of it. We're still like, you could either have like the best morning of your life or you could have an absolute dud morning of your life. But yeah, it's one of those things of like, I think the people in this industry understand that there's always that like unknown factor of like something might not happen. And so we have been able to like still be able to secure jobs and everything in that. And sometimes like it's not staged, but it's just like, if we're not having a great morning, all right, let's just get a few more photos, different angles that might not make sense. Like if you're actually hunting, but they will look great for advertising.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So we'll kind of make it like twisted a little bit of like, if you're having an awesome hunt, then yes, you're like, you're locked in, you're focused.
Yep.
If you're not, then like,
Make the most.
that shoot that we had to reshoot, it was like one of those things, like the first time that we shot it, it was in pouring rain and it was like crazy experience.
Yeah.
Like it was brutal. Next time we go out, it was like winter wonderland, like pure whiteout, fog everywhere. Trees are all frosted up. It was one of the most beautiful shoots I've ever done.
Dang.
Sure.
And it just like worked out really cool. And we pulled up and there's like 50 turkeys out in the field. And I'm like, all right, get the FPV drone. We're going to go try to dive bomb. I'm sorry. DNR and everything. But yeah, it's like, we're going to just go get cool shots while we're at it. So yeah, we try to always have at least a fun memory out of whether or not it's the most sucky situation or if it's like, I don't know.
Now, do you go into each of these shoots or each of these trips with like a story that you want to tell or with a content piece in mind, or are you kind of just letting it happen and capturing what's unfolding? Or do you kind of have a little bit of a plan going into it?
So yeah, there's we try to balance that scale because we're trying not to be like fake where we just stage everything.
Right.
And I've heard this very well, or like I heard this really well off a podcast that the Meat Eater does. And they're a pretty big like Netflix series and everything.
Yeah.
But they have a podcast series and they were having all their like cinematographers and everything on. And it's a very hard balance because people want to see people's faces. They want to see people talking. They want to see people interacting.
Yeah.
But for us, like the videographers, it's like we're always shooting their backside. Like you're trying to be quiet while chasing this animal. And like then it's like it's kind of that hard balance of like we're trying to get the story. We're also trying to be real and authentic and be out in the situation.
And be safe.
So yeah.
And say,
and not stand in front of guns.
Right.
Yeah.
No,
That's
like
a general
absolutely.
rule.
Like
Don't
there's
make it
always there's always those like you don't want to do this, but like we're trying to make it like the best that we can.
Right.
And so for some of the stuff that we've done, it's like kind of give or take of like if it's a production thing, like you kind of are like throwing out we're not going to see animals. But if it's more of like an actual like vlog or video or like short film that we're doing for like Midwest Outdoor Chasers, it's a lot more real and authentic of like, hey, we are in this situation. We're getting real time like reactions of people.
Yeah.
And it's a lot more of like, we don't have a plan of like, deer's going to show up at 6:01, like hunter shoots at 6:03 and we are set. Like video's over.
Right.
Yeah.
Deer walks out.
Yeah.
Emerges into the valley at 5:04. All right, cue deer. All right,
deer.
where's the deer at?
Yeah.
Golden hours.
Yeah.
Nobody
beautiful.
called the deer.
Yeah, I spent so many hours in a tree stand this last year, and it was like there were multiple times that we saw absolutely nothing. And you're like, there's a squirrel. It's like fascinating.
Great.
Like film it. There's movement.
Yeah.
No, it is. It's one of those situations, but it has. Yeah, so it's like I was actually just texting with one of the guys this morning. We do a lot of like every spring, one of these guys will do a control burn of different like land to have conservation. And I was like, hey, what if we did a video more set up that we like studied it a little bit more of like, why is conservation good? Why is control burns good? Like, why do you want to do this? And so it's been like, so there's some of those situations. Like we play both hands of like, or both decks kind of at the same time.
For sure.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting balance. It's very nerve-wracking. Like editing, I will tell you, is a nightmare sometimes because like you're taking stuff. Like we just released this big deer video just a few weeks ago, and it was like 7 different hunts, and it was like I wasn't even there for both kills, and it was like it was kind of like I don't know how I'm gonna create this story.
Right.
And then it was like I started editing it, and then it was like I'm not going to add almost any music. Like let's just keep it very raw and authentic and just do natural sound and audio. And it turned out really cool. It was an incredible story, and like somehow we made a video out of it. I don't know how, but like we made something happen, and it's like almost it's like a 22-minute video almost.
Okay.
And so like we kind of just roll with the punches and we're definitely trying to develop it more to like we have at least we're doing a little bit more scripted stuff while then also like being true to nature and being in the outdoors.
Yeah.
I love that because I think it's really neat what you can do these days with taking a camera on a hunt and somebody that didn't grow up hunting at all. Like I love watching outdoor content. So like I've been watching like John B. fishing for so many years. I mean, those slow motion, like kiss the fish and let him flop into the water and like catch and release stuff. Like, bro, his intros and like the epic, like tiny little boat, massive drone shot coming in, like they would always travel all over the place. And it's just like, it pulls you in, even not being an outdoorsman. And I think it's really neat that we can kind of bridge that gap. Like as filmmakers, we can, you can step in, wake up at 3 a.m., go put up deer blinds or whatever, and then film the whole process. And then you put it up online and people can watch 22 minutes of you guys like doing the process and be like, yo, that's really cool. Like maybe I wouldn't want to do that, but like it's really, really sick to see the process just shot and filmed in a cool cinematic way too.
Yeah.
Well, I think like all of us being like followers of Christ, we can all take beauty in the nature that is around us.
Yeah.
Of like mountains are insane, like
Yep.
Oceans are insane.
Yep.
There's a certain aspect that you have to respect with the outdoor nature.
Yeah.
Or like with nature, and then it's also like, how do we capture it? Like we have like badass cameras that we can capture it with.
Yep.
It's like, let's film it at like the coolest thing that we possibly can.
Yep.
For sure.
And so like it kind of goes back to like that like Nat Geo or like some of these extreme like documentary stuff of like watching a mouse run through like a field and like, how do they shoot that?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
These like $200,000 rigs on the front of a car chasing a cheetah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or on an elephant.
Yep.
Like
It's
watching the Our Planet behind the scenes is
it's awesome.
nuts.
It's so
Like,
cool.
change-
I almost take more like I almost love that more than actually watching like Our Planet.
Oh, sure.
Oh, the behind the scenes.
yeah.
The behind the
Oh, for
scenes
sure.
stuff.
Yeah.
Just seeing how they're shooting it
Yep.
and how they're doing it
Yeah.
because there's like so much more there than like that's a cool shot of a cheetah like sitting there. But it's like how did they get that?
Yeah. It's
The
it's
one that
so
blew my
interesting.
mind was the lizards. They had like a whole sequence where like these, or I think they were lizards and they were getting chased by snakes or something.
Oh, geez.
And this
Oh, yeah,
one
I've seen
lizard
this, I've
had to
seen
like
this, yeah.
make it through all of these snakes. And it's literally like a
Yeah.
whole 5-minute
Right.
sequence.
Snoop Dogg.
They had to have had like
narrates it
30 angles just
in a
like
different
ready to
video.
go. I don't get it. But
Yeah.
anyways, that stuff is
insane.
incredible.
Well, yeah, it blows my mind because we'll sit out in these trees for hours. We won't see anything. And then it's like they're getting shots of mice like interacting with each other. It's like that camera is bigger than my camera.
Right.
How are you sitting there doing this?
How do you keep that much storage space with you for like,
Unbelievable.
Well, how we've seen it on some of the behind the scenes for Our Planet or stuff like that. Some David Attenborough, awesome narrated film.
Yeah.
But there was a guy that was waiting for this like really extinct like snow-
Tiger.
or white tiger or something.
Yeah, like a
Siberian
snow
tiger,
leopard.
I think.
Yeah, he lived in that little hut for like 2 months and got like 2 shots. But he
Insane.
and they just have like Sony A7 III or Sony A7S3s or
I think they were GH5s.
Oh,
were they?
Yeah.
But just like little
Just like little mirrorless cameras rigged up and
Yeah.
little
these
solar panel, like battery charger deals.
It's like
and-
in a little lockbox thing, and they just like go put
Yeah.
it in, switch out the
Yeah.
cards, and they live in this tiny little hut and eat freaking canned goods cold.
Yeah. It's
And
just it's the challenge of how do we do creation justice by capturing it. Like that's really the challenge under it all is like in that instance you have this animal who's just like incredibly
Super
hard to
elusive.
detect
right.
and incredibly hard to see with your own eyes,
Yeah.
let alone like capture it in a still moment.
Yeah.
So it's just like, that I guess the discipline of like,
Yeah, there's
how
a
do
beauty
we,
there.
how do we do nature justice by like getting those shots and doing it the best that we can?
Yeah, it's one of those cool challenges because like we were out in Grand Tetons here 2 years ago now, and it was one of these situations of like my buddy's been looking for like grizzly bears for like his whole life. He's from here in Iowa, or like right across the river in Iowa.
Yeah.
And like first morning there in the Grand Tetons, I like see a mother grizzly bear with her 2 cubs. And like I got the shot and it was super cool, but it was like he's been looking for him forever.
Yeah.
And it's like that's a frightening creature to be around.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh,
And then like I
100%.
left and like came back a little bit later and it was like the bear was just leaving. And the people were like, yeah, it charged the road right after like
No
like when I was
way.
not there. So like right after I left. And I was like, that's freaking freaky.
That's insane. What's that adrenaline come down like? Like after you're in a scenario like that and shooting something, like how long after is it where you're just like realizing what just happened?
It's definitely interesting. Like there are certain times that like your adrenaline's through the roof. You are locked in.
Sure.
You're in that like flow state of like, I'm getting the shots.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's also the times that we'll sit out on like a piece of water for a few hours. And it's like we don't see like a single duck.
Sure.
And I think the guys could tell you like better than I can of this, of like I have the worst tendency just to like fall asleep and just slump over in my chair. And then it's like ducks are coming and I'm like locked up and
Right.
like I'm in
Back
like,
in the zone. Yeah.
It's interesting. It's an interesting balance.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So
That's crazy.
Are you shooting the whole entire time? Like you have 40 hours of footage
No.
or like you're taking...
I try to like with everything that I shoot, I try to get a good variety of different clips, like setting the scene, setting the situation. The difficult part is like I'm also trying to shoot photos at the same time. And so it's like a lot of the time, like we don't really do a lot of double takes. So it's like, all right, guys, like here's one camera, get this shot, have the other camera, my hand
You're
right here.
holstered up.
Like,
and what are you shooting on, just for curiosity?
So I have a Canon C300 Mark III. That's my workhorse.
Okay.
And then I just recently purchased a C70 that is essentially the little brother to it. Same sensor, same kind of format of camera, but it's just a smaller body and smaller frame. And then I have a Canon 1DX Mark III that I shoot for photos, and I used to have like an R5 and everything that I still have access to.
Cool.
So I run a Canon lineup for equipment, and then it's just treated me well over the years.
Yeah.
So that's why I was asking what made you guys go Sony.
We're Sony boys.
But
honestly, if we weren't shooting Sony, I would probably want to own. I've always wanted to own a 1DX, well, 2 Mark II, but the Mark III I'm sure is sick. But Peter McKinnon was always like vlogging with the 1DX Mark. I think he started with the Mark 1, or did he start with the 2? And I was like, it just is the most beautiful looking thing. And
he made that camera such a staple in the industry of like everybody wanted a 1DX.
Yeah, we held one time at Rockbrook, and I just remember like blasting the shutter and just being like, this is so sick. I want beautiful. One. So, it's so huge and obnoxious, and I probably still will get one day just to like have. But and Canon color is great. Like I really do like Canon a lot.
Yeah,
but Sony gang for life.
Yeah, Sony boys.
That's fair. I don't know if you guys will be able to get that domain, but
sure.
Yeah,
that's fair.
There is one thing on the FX6 that would be cool for what you do, I think, and that's picture cache recording. Does the C70 do that as well?
A little bit. I've never dabbled into it. That's like what we were talking prior to starting the podcast. You dive into a lot more manuals than I do.
Sure.
I'm a lot more like, I got the thing. All right, scratch the manual. I'm going out shooting with it. I know there's a photo setting. I don't know how to activate it.
Sure.
So that's where I need to dive.
Well, so there's a setting. It might be on the C70. I'm not sure. But the FX6 has a setting where it will actually record up to 30 seconds of cached video recording before you hit the record button. Oh. So you could actually wait until after they shoot the bird and hit record, and it will have recorded the past 30 seconds. So that way you don't have to just sit there recording, waiting for the thing to happen.
So yes, I thought you were meaning like it was taking photos. But no, like I have heard about that with the Sonys. I haven't ever dug into that with the Canon. I probably should a little bit because that would help.
I'll look it up. If I find anything, I'll let you know.
I would. Yeah, that would be awesome.
That was Talking Gear with Austin and Ben right there. Yeah. Cool.
It's super interesting, the equipment gear that's used in the industry and kind of like what different professionals use across the board, like these people that take Aries or Reds out into nature, and it's like that's a big camera to be floating around out here. It's heavy, and it's just it's interesting
for sure.
Well, thanks for all the time you spent with us, Ben.
Absolutely,
it's been so good to have you here. Quickly, will you tell everybody where to find you? Where can they find and keep up with you online, social, anything like that?
Yeah, so right now, the main account that I'm working on is Bighorn Productions. We have Instagram, and then we might be starting up YouTube here sooner than later.
Sweet.
And then Midwest Outdoor Chasers is on Instagram.
Okay.
It's on Facebook. YouTube, we're really pushing right now.
Okay.
And then we also have a website for both Bighorn for Midwest Outdoor Chasers. And then there's also my personal brand just with Ben Mohorn of my personal Instagram and everything. But
awesome.
Yeah, we try to stay as active on social media as we can.
Yeah. So. That's great. Well, thanks for hanging out today, Ben.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me on.
Yeah,
it's been
appreciate
a pleasure.
it, bro.
Wow. It's the end.
So that's how I feel after this episode. He literally brought so much value. Even I'm just inspired.
Yeah.
I'm reminded of just being I'm literally 10 years or 9 years older than this guy.
Sure.
And he brought just such a fresh perspective of being a young entrepreneur and caring about the things that really need to be cared about early on to be successful in the long term.
Right.
So I hope it encouraged you guys because if like you're starting out, or maybe you're 18 or 19, or maybe you're now 23, 24. It's not too late to start things and do things really, really well.
Or too early.
Or it's not, it's not too early either. Yeah. You can be 30, 40 and starting this new venture into a creative business. And so I hope that this encouraged you. It encouraged me, and I'm better for it. So yeah, thank you so much, Ben, for being on the pod.
And lastly, be sure to follow this podcast wherever you consume your podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, it would mean the world to us if you hit the subscribe button, hit the bell to be notified when we drop podcasts every first and third Monday of the month. And super excited to have more guests like Ben in different industries. And really, we want to bring you a wide variety of perspectives on this podcast. So stay tuned. Don't miss the next episode. And thank you so much for watching. We love you guys. See you in the next one.
Love you.